Welcome to She's Got This, the podcast for ambitious women who want to grow and scale their business and use the power of intentional energy direction to design their very best life. I'm your host, Christine Gallagher, award-winning business coach and mindset mentor to female entrepreneurs. If you're ready to own your brilliance while making bank, step into the absolute best version of you, and become a force for positive change in the world, you're in the right place. Let's do it. Hey everybody, it's Christine. Welcome. So happy you're here. Today, we're talking about how to keep yourself in the state of receiving money. So to talk about this, we first have to talk about states. And there are a countless number of states. For example, the state of health, the state of poverty, the state of wealth, the state of sickness, known, unknown, all of those are states. And everyone is always in a state. A state is made up of your present sense of self. It's also about how you see yourself and how you view the world. And a biggie is it's made up of what you're assuming, your assumptions. And I talk about this a lot, but 90% of your results come as a result of who you are being, meaning your state. So if I had to really put it all into one word, it would be that word state, your state of being. And science today backs this up. Your state is really sort of the energetic catalyst that brings matter into physical form. And it factors in so much more than you might think, and also so much more than the marketing industry would have you believe. And I've been part of that industry for 14 years. But because of the inner work I was led to, I see what truly moves the needle. The state you're in when you do the thing, you can also think of it as energy and energetic state. The energy with which you do the thing is far more important than the thing itself. And the marketing is still important, of course, but I always think of the 90% as that crucial foundation. So to think about this for yourself, a question would be, okay, if you were to pause and review your current state, what would you be? Does it align to the kind of life you want or business you want? Is it putting yourself in the position that you wish to be in? One thing to look at to see what state you are in is your inner conversations. Your inner conversations will quickly identify the state that you are in. So essentially what you're saying to yourself, the things that are going through your head silently throughout the day, throughout the night, that makes up your state and is a great way to see where you actually are in your state at any given moment. The thing with humans is that we all have a very comfortable state where we dwell, and we continue to return to that state. And your dwelling place is really the same thing as what you receive in life, right? Wherever you're dwelling affects what you receive in your life. So if somebody says they had a lot of doubts and a lot of negative thoughts and they still were able to manifest, that's because the state that they most often return to, that dwelling place, their true belief, isn't the doubts. So if you dwell most often in doubt or low self-worth, etc., that is what you receive. So where you dwell most often equals your primary state. And it's totally okay, because the good news is your state is all mental. There is not a single circumstance on the outside that can prevent you from being the person that you want to be. You can detach yourself from a state that you don't want to be in by making an adjustment in your human imagination. So you bring to life what you pay attention to, and you can bring to life a new state. The idea is to have your desired state begin to feel natural. And at first, it can feel unnatural and sort of strange, but when you constantly return to it, it becomes more comfortable. So it is about persisting until it starts to feel natural. And yes, there are techniques for this, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But it's really about having that place of a calm reassurance, or being in a place of a calm knowing. So typically when we want something, we create it or construct it, the actual state, in our mind's eye, but the problem becomes that we have this state, but we don't occupy the state. And also it reminds me of words like dream or hope or wish. Those words are wonderful and beautiful, but they do not mean that you are occupying the ideal state you want to be in your imagination. So when you persist in making your state feel natural, you'll naturally hold that feeling into the day. So it's not about forcing yourself to feel it 24/7. If it feels fake, then keep persisting. Once it's natural, you won't feel that. And again, there are things you can do to get into that state where it does end up feeling natural. Another way to look at this is the time that it takes for your desire to become a reality is directly proportional to your feeling of naturalness. So if you desire something, anything at all in your life, in your business, your income, your relationships, you don't attract it, you actually assume the state. So it's not about attracting something or thinking about something, it's actually assuming the state. And the way it works is the more you imagine your desire, the more you imagine what you want, the more real it starts to feel. So the easier it ends up getting for you to identify with it. Now, it's good for you to remember that doing techniques to put you in this state that you want to be in, doing the techniques by themselves are not really the key, but techniques can be used to get you into the state. So the ones that I want to share about today are not what you would think of as typical immerse yourself in piles of money type things, but I actually think they're better because it's about changing yourself for the better at a core level. So you can imagine yourself swimming in a pool of money. You could do scripting, affirmations, energetically shop at high-end stores. Of course, you could do all of that. Technique choosing is actually a personal thing. It's up to you. But the ones I want to highlight are the ones that I currently feel are the most powerful ways for me personally to shift my state on a continuous basis. And so, yay, you actually don't need to rely on sheer will alone, which for me is really good news because that feels really hard and upstream and like you're climbing a mountain. And there are ways that you can do this without feeling that way. One of them is SATS. So SATS stands for state akin to sleep. So in other words, what SATS is about is impressing your subconscious by actually living in the end of what it is that you want. So imagining it as already having happened. So creation is finished, everything exists, and it's about tuning yourself to that version of reality where you already have your desires. And yes, there are techniques to help you with that. And SATS is my probably most favorite at this point. So right before you go to sleep or upon waking up is a really potent state for impressing your subconscious. So the desires that you envision in your mind as having already happened by living in the end can't help but come to fruition from that place. So when you're clear on what you want, you start seeing in your mind's eye an event which implies the fulfillment of your desire. So you feel it and you know it's yours and you assume it is done. So exactly what you want will actually have no choice but to come to pass when your emotions align to what you're intending. Now, SATS is great. Some people don't need SATS or they don't prefer SATS. And so it's not the only thing that we're going to talk about. And the other thing I want to mention about this technique is that you don't have to do it necessarily right before you're going to sleep or waking up in the morning. It's just that those are really, as I said, potent states. But you could also do this any time of day, as long as you get yourself in a relaxed place, almost like a meditative state. Some people like to think of it as daydreaming, but the one thing to remember about looking at it as daydreaming is it's not that place of daydreaming where you're like, I wish I had this, or wouldn't it be nice if? Again, the difference is that you already have it. You're in the feeling of living in the end of having what you want. And if you wanted to do a deeper dive into the state akin to sleep, there is a podcast episode I did early on that is all about SATS. And so I go into a lot more detail about how that works. Where I learned SATs from originally was Neville Goddard. So if you Google Neville Goddard or go on YouTube and put in SATs or state akin to sleep, a lot of stuff will come up for you to learn more. So that is one way to keep yourself in the state of receiving money, because obviously your imaginary scene could be anything that would show you that you are already there. So for example, maybe you have a scene of going out to dinner with a group of friends and you're sitting at the table and all of you are doing a cheers with champagne, and your bestie right next to you is saying, cheers to you on your first $1 million year. Congratulations. So congratulations is a really great way to get yourself in that feeling of already have achieving what you wanted to achieve, because in reality, you would probably have a good friend or a family member or a loved one congratulating you if that was something you did and were really proud of. Or it could be you logging into your bank account and seeing a certain balance there. Or it could be you in your dream house. Maybe you're in the kitchen, you're looking around and seeing how beautiful all of your cabinets and marble and light fixtures and fresh flowers are, and really just being in that scene. And maybe you might combine it with something else you want. For example, if you are not with somebody and want to be in a relationship, you could be in that kitchen and imagine yourself having a loving moment where you're hugging or being affectionate with somebody that is your person. So sometimes I like to combine desires that I want into one scene. So there's no right or wrong way. It's really just whatever would imply to you that you already have what it is that you want. Okay, the second way that you can keep yourself in the state of receiving money is by reminding yourself that you are the prize on the pedestal. So this has to do with self-concept. So your concept of yourself is really the cause of all of the circumstances in your life. And this is not selfish, because any change that you want to see occur needs to start from within you first. So as within, so without. If you don't see the change you want on the outside, then that's a sign that you have not changed within yourself. And I know as humans, it's very easy for us to look around outside of us and blame someone or something else. But the truth is, your own consciousness is the only reality. And the cool thing is, other people change automatically when you change yourself. So what that means is the way other people behave tells you constantly who you have conceived yourself to be. Another way to think of this is it's your I amness. And your I amness, whatever you think you are, is how you change your world. So as soon as you transform yourself, what happens is the world around you will rearrange itself to reflect what the change affirms. So this, of course, requires you to kind of fall in love with what you really want to be, so much so that you become it. But again, it's not a selfish thing, and it's so worth it. So by changing your concept of yourself, you can actually interrupt or interfere with your future, and you can mold it to line up with your changed self-concept, which is, of course, incredibly powerful. And each of us has that same power. So you might wonder, as I did when I first learned about all of this, does this ability to change the future go against the idea of what we mentioned, which is creation is finished? No, because by changing your self-concept, you also change your relationship to things. So for example, let's think about a play. If you rearrange the words of a play in order to write a different one, you haven't created new words, you've rearranged them. So your self-concept determines the order of events that you encounter. They are in the foundation of the world, but not their order of arrangement. And truly, life is just a play. You are the actor, you're the writer, you're the producer, you're the director. And when you live in the end of what you want to be, you will literally watch other people move into position and play their part. So this is about trusting yourself to no longer need to change others around you. There is a higher level available to you right now, whether that's money or anything else. And that comes from within you, not anything outside of you. One of my favorite Neville Goddard quotes is, "You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you don't see it." So you get to choose what you become. And when you do the inner work, do the kind of things that we're talking about today, you get to validate yourself from the inside. And what I noticed is that when you do that, you won't need anyone else to validate you. And once you change how you see yourself and you commit to that new self-concept, the world has no other choice but to rearrange itself around you. So you don't have to wait for anyone else to deem you worthy. You are worthy of everything you desire simply because you exist. You attract what you are. So if you want to receive what you want, you shift your identity and how you see yourself first. So for example, if you constantly see yourself as somebody who is in debt, or who is in a state of lack, or somebody who has money issues and nothing ever works out for you with money, or you're constantly short of money, all of these things are determining what state you are in. And so what we're talking about is, again, changing how you see yourself and committing to that new self-concept. There's a concept that Neville teaches related to this that is called EIYPO, which stands for Everyone Is You Pushed Out. So this teaches that nothing exists outside of your own consciousness, and your entire experience of the world is simply a projection of your internal consciousness. So your reality is nothing more than what you are imagining pushed out. So everything is responding to what you are imagining. That means it's all mirroring your assumptions. And you call everyone and everything into your world according to what you believe, because again, inner creates outer, and you are the operant power. You get to create anything you want because life actually unfolds according to what is going on inside, and anything else is an illusion. So when you change your state and your self-concept, you can again literally watch those desires start magnetizing around you. And guess what? The state akin to sleep, or SATS, is actually a shortcut to changing your self-concept. So again, you don't need to just rely on sheer will alone. Another way to keep you in the state of receiving money is about persisting in the wish fulfilled. So some people might refer to this as a mental diet. I don't necessarily love that term because diet has a connotation for most people as being restrictive or not easy. But essentially what we're talking about is, for example, if you're doing something like SATS before you go to sleep, think about, well, okay, if that's happening when I go to sleep, what about the rest of the day? What about the rest of the time? So if you are the operant power, not the 3D that you see around you, that is where something like a mental diet comes in, or watching your inner conversations is another way to say it. It's just another technique. So if you have a big goal, at first, it's natural for you to think about it all the time, right? And I know for me, if I have a big goal, I often would typically default to anxious thoughts or thoughts of lack. So you might say something like, I want to make $100,000 a month, but then you go right to thoughts of, it isn't here yet, or wow, how could that ever be possible for me? Since right now I'm only at X place in my income. The reason this happens is because your goal has a really high emotional charge for you, which means you have it on a pedestal. So what you can do is a mental diet, or watching your inner conversations for a period of time where you decide to not think about the goal at all, good or bad. What this will do is decrease that emotional charge, and it will take it off of the pedestal. It's kind of like saying, I can create absolutely whatever I want in my life. So that number is really not a big deal. And of course I can have that. So when you decide not to think about it and it pops up in your mind, you can replace those thoughts with the confidence that it's already here. You just need to match up with it. And of course, this takes practice like anything, because when the goal pops in your head, the initial thought might be disappointment or impatience that it's not here right now. So it's okay to feel the disappointment, but catch yourself and tell yourself that things are rearranging right now for you to get your desire, and then stop thinking about it. So what happens is eventually the gap of time between feeling the disappointment or impatience and the it's here, things are just being rearranged, will decrease until the feeling goes away completely. And maybe it's replaced with something else like smiling and nodding to yourself when you think of your goal. And at that point, you can think about it more because you will be more confident. So this is being faithful to the version of reality that you want to be in. And of course, what is at the heart of this ultimately? Your self-concept and living in the end. So it's really insecurity that causes us to put what we want on a pedestal. So take your focus off of seeing your desire on a pedestal and put the attention back onto you, because what you want is not more special than you. What you want is not better than you. You are worthy of it always, whether that is money, relationship, health, or anything else. And of course, we always hear it's so important to love yourself first. And when I want to fortify that for myself, I do, and I love myself, meditation in the morning. The one I do is short and sweet. It's only about 7 minutes, but it anchors me into the energy of self-love and self-appreciation. And it's good to point out that this self-concept that we've been talking about is not only about your beliefs about yourself, it also applies to your thoughts about other people. So, for example, if your dominant belief is that other people treat you like crap, you're going to continue seeing and experiencing that. Now, that's not to say you should let anyone treat you badly, but know that when you choose to see them differently, you will experience differently. So all of us have times where we are not satisfied or not happy with the circumstances in a certain area of our life. And when that happens, it's actually good because it's a signal to you that you need to change your inner conversations. Everything that you could ever want is already here. It's only waiting for you to match your beliefs to it. So once your body starts believing, then you will start being them, feeling and physically acting them in real time. That is necessary so that your desires are brought into your reality. And if you have negative thoughts or intrusive thoughts, you're human. We all have them. Don't beat yourself up. Just remember that the thoughts are temporary. They are fleeting. And you can use them as a cue to get back to where you need to be. So like anything, it's a habit that will begin to get easier and more automatic over time. And again, techniques can be useful here. So one thing that helps me is going back to gratitude, whether that's listing off a few things in my head or writing them down. It's kind of a way that I can anchor myself. Affirmations are great too. I keep a bunch of them on the Notes app on my phone. One of the ones that I'm loving lately is I always end up getting what I want. Things have always worked out for me in the end. This is going to be no different. And so you might ask, okay, this all sounds great, but what if I don't end up getting what it is that I want? If that happens, there are a few questions that you can ask of yourself. One, look at if there are reasons why you maybe don't want it, which sounds funny. But for example, if you want a certain amount of money, you might also have feelings underneath that are, for example, fearful about what it means to have more money. Will people treat you differently? Will you have to pay more taxes? Will you be responsible enough to handle it? That kind of thing. You can also ask, what is it about this that I don't believe? Why do I not believe I can have it? And also, why do I not feel that I am worthy of this? Remember, you can ask your higher self for guidance to help you see what is in the way. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or share it with someone else who would find it helpful. To stay connected with me, please visit shesgotclients.com and sign up for my email list at the bottom of the page. Or feel free to share this episode on your Instagram and tag me at Christine G and I'll repost you. I would love to share this with as many people as possible. I love you. Until next time, keep shining your light.